Chapter 89. The big questions are raised again. Vera Rubin's significant work and Walter's alternative ideas. A first disclaimer. All the people in this book are fictional. All claims, regardless of subject, are precisely that, claims. Some have their roots in empirical facts, while others are pure imagination. My aim is to strike a balance between vision and reality, between fiction and fact, in such a way that readers can recognize something of themselves and continue to play with the wealth of ideas and inventions. The book has no ambition to proclaim an overarching purpose, but rather to question accepted truths. In that sense, in the Socratic tradition, the rest is left to the audience. At the well-known and highly advanced Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile, they had, for the first time in human history, discovered white holes. Black holes were well known, but white holes that led into new universes. This had been predicted as a possibility as far back as 50 years ago, but now it was here. Not only could this open a path into new universes, but it could also transform our quality of life, our capacity for understanding, our intuition, our sense of human dignity, and our attitude toward our own civilization. Walter jumped in. This points in the direction of my great hero, Johann Sebastian Bach. Yes, because through his music we understand that the universe is not limited but unlimited, not merely materially, but conceptually, filled with possibilities. And that is why Bach could do what he did. Freiman now became engaged. He had recently been thinking about the microtonal. Could the microtonal lead toward an escape route from this universe? His idea revolved around the microscopic perspective. Like Walter, he was well acquainted with the macroscopic, or mesoscopic, state of life, the world into which we are all born. The familiar, the life we deal with every day. The microscopic and the macroscopic become distant worlds. Today's technology makes it possible, to a certain extent, to penetrate these universes. There was something about the microtonal that intrigued both Freiman and Walter. It was not that they were particularly enthusiastic about microtonality in general, but rather the idea that everything we observe could be minimized, or dissolved into smaller and smaller units. They were both familiar with the discovery of black holes as vital components of the universe, but in recent decades the focus had shifted toward white holes. Walter believed this concerned two sides of the same coin. Through a black hole, all matter collapses. In other words, everything we know becomes unimaginably small, so small that, in practice, it ceases to exist. Freiman pursued the idea. His concept of white holes could complement black holes. We find ourselves at a 0 point for everything. We imagine this as a breakdown, a collapse of everything we know. But why not entertain the thought that it could be the beginning of new universes? And there is another possibility, a microtonal melody. If we linger with it for a few seconds, we might discover an unexpected third way out of nothingness. We have a tendency to look outward, and only outward, when we think about new discoveries. Now we were beginning to think in the opposite direction. New discoveries could just as easily be inward-looking. We know that nanotechnology is already here and constantly developing. The possibility that gateways to vast new universes might exist within the microscopic is not implausible. We are at the very beginning of this celestial journey. Let us imagine that we are fish in an aquarium. We have no concept of the world outside, other than changes in the light filtering through the water when someone moves beyond the aquarium. A world we can only sense, but will never be able to visit. Walter tried to place the whole idea in the context of our own reality. He brought up our own functional tonality as an example of our ability to orient ourselves here and now. Functional tonality had evolved from simpler forms many hundreds of years ago. Human beings had only monophonic music before they discovered polyphony. Monophony can be compared to a one-dimensional understanding of microtonality. Suppose we find ourselves in the microscopic realm but want to move beyond it. Then it is not unlikely that we might discover polyphony within the microtonal world. In other words, we escape the one-dimensional, monophonic world and branch out toward greater diversity. Walter and Freeman were completely in agreement. Now they needed to find a skilled technician in the field of electronics, an inventive person, someone capable of turning these ideas into practical reality.